Okay, I think we were talking about the duties that you and Charlie had on the farm the year your dad died.
Okay. And I said, Dad would go to the field and tell us what to do. Tell us when to plant, tell us when to plow it, and everything had to be done. And then we laid the crop by, as they called it, in the summer. And Dad was steadily getting worse and had spent a lot more time in the hospital. And they had finally decided that he had more than just a ulcer. And he was losing gobs and gobs of blood. And they were giving him blood every time he went to the hospital. And in all, whenever he passed away, he had had 23 pints of blood. And the later years, they said most likely what he had was cancer of the stomach. And but he died August the 16th. That was 8 days after his 42nd birthday. And he was buried out in Greenwood Cemetery in the same area with Mother's father and mother, Grandma and Grandpa Robertson. Dad and Mother had picked the plots whenever Grandpa Robertson had died, which was 2 years before Dad died. And Dad's daddy had died the year before he did. Anyway, it was a really hard time on us because then the next year, Aunt May's husband died, and we had lived close neighbors with them all our life. So 1, 2, 3, 4 right in a row.
And how is Aunt May related to you?
She was Mother's sister, just older than Mother. Well, she was 4 years older than Mother. In between her and Mother, I think, if I remember correctly, was when there was a boy, Grandma and Grandpa's only boy, Mother's only brother. His name was Willie, and he had died at age either 9 or 11, and at different times I heard different numbers for his year, so I'm not sure if he was 9 or 11. But I have no idea where he was buried. No idea at all. Anyway.
And his name would have been Willie Robertson.
And I've got here somewhere, Kirk, all that information that Pat and I had planned to put on the computer. And there was some things I needed to do to it, and we just haven't gotten back to it. But we'll try to get back to it one day and put what we've got about the genealogy of Mama's family on the computer. Anyway, Dad passed away, and of course in the fall came time to harvest the crops. Well, there wasn't anybody to harvest the crops but us kids and Mom. And Virginia was still sickly. She had at the age of 10, when I was only 5, she had what they called in those days inflammatory rheumatism, and had spent 6 or 8 months, I don't remember how many months now because I was too little, and I've heard the story since, but I can't remember exactly how many months. She spent a long time in the hospital, not in the hospital, in bed. The doctor was a neighbor of ours, Dr. Ware, and his sister had had the same thing in previous years. I think now they would have called it rheumatoid. No, there's another name for it, and I can't think of now what it was now. But anyway, it led into her rheumatoid arthritis. But she had 5 incisions in her body, 1 on the ankle, 1 on the end of the spine, 1 right here, and 1 on the arm. I can't remember where the other one was. There was 5 in all, and they had to have drains in them for a long time. Well, a little kind of, I'm deviating from what we're talking about, but I don't know how else to do it. Just these thoughts come to mind.
That's fine.
The day that she took with this disease was a winter day. I think it was October or November, but of course sometime back in those days in Arkansas, it got cold in October, September, October. And she got sick. But before she got sick that morning, she and I were playing in the living room, and as kids will, Mama was out beside the house washing on the rug board. And we were just running around the house, and Granddaddy Dunn had been there the day before, and he was a big, heavy man. And so they always brought in what they called a settee, which was like it was a small couch type thing made out of, what do they get? Bamboo. Ooh. My mind is gone. Anyway, she was chasing me, and I fell into that settee and knocked my teeth, all my front teeth were just hanging. And they kind of positioned them back. In those days, you didn't go to the dentist either. And some of them stayed in, but they were real crooked, and when they came in, that's one reason my mouth was messed up with crooked teeth. But for a long, long time, they thought maybe the trauma of seeing my mouth and the shape that it was in was what caused her to go into this. But of course, years later, they said, no, that wouldn't have happened like that. It was just happened that way. I know, but I blame myself for it for years and years, that I was the cause of Sis being like she was. But she was paralyzed in one leg, left leg, I believe, and right arm, or vice versa, I think. Right leg, left arm. No, left leg, right arm, had it right leg, because she hadn't learned to write by left-handed for a long time to keep up with some of her studies at school. And she was lost a year in school that way. But then, later she had the rheumatoid arthritis around, but really, really, really bad. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I was going to say before that happened that fall, when Dad died, is when I was getting to. That fall, then we had to do all this. So Sis didn't do a lot because of her problems, and then her appendicitis operation and all that summer. So most of it was left up to Charlie and me again, because we were 12 and 14, and that was the oldest ones of the family then that could really work. And so we got in the crop, and we were told later that was the biggest crop that Daddy had ever raised. That he had put in, he had helped us, and we put in.
And what was the crop? What were you farming?
We were farming all kinds of fruits, vegetables, corn, cotton, cane. They did haying. Someone helped us do haying that year before Dad died. I can't remember who helped with the hay. But we had watermelons, cantaloupes, everything that they needed for food and for money crop. And then we milked. I think the year that Dad passed away, we were milking about 21 or 25 cows, and we sold milk to the cheese factory for that. Prior to that, they had, I can't remember where Mom and Dad sold the milk, but it was skim milk prior to that, because we skimmed off we had a separator that took the butter fat and all out of it, and we sold it separate for a long time. I hated that job. I hated that job. Stand there and turn that crank.